Yep. And so usually what happens at this point is we all then immediately descend into silence whilst the video is running. Anyway, the meeting has officially started again, so I don't know if there was anything left over from before tea. Unfinished business from before tea. Probably not.
Is unrequited, Tony mentioned something about unrequited love being associated with unconditional love. There's a connection there or something like that. The longing for unrequited love is maybe...
Oh, I see. Oh, right, yes.
I don't know.
That kind of makes sense, yes. The kind of, you could say that the longing which is involved in unrequited love, almost by definition, you could say is kind of like a, I don't know, an echo of or a pointer towards the longing for unconditional love, which can actually, spoiler alert, which can actually never be experienced by the person, the character, but nevertheless can be known. I'm not going to use the word experience, I'm going to say it can be experienced, but unconditional love can be known. Unconditional love can be experienced when experience requires an experiencer. And if unconditional love is seen, there certainly isn't any experiencer there. So that's maybe, I've never thought about this before, that's maybe why I find myself, whenever I'm describing this, talking about unconditional love being known. Not experienced, but known. And I think, yeah, it absolutely makes sense to say that unrequited love is a pointer to that. Yeah. Fulfilled love, which is kind of the opposite of unrequited love, isn't a pointer to it, because in fulfilled love, we feel satisfied. Temporarily, obviously temporarily. So whilst fulfilled love is there, you know, we can't associate that with the yearning for unconditional love. But of course, that fulfillment is always temporary.
So unrequited love is is really a yearning for unconditional love.
Well, I think that's taken a big step from what I said, but I think I'd go along with that, yeah. Yeah. Any kind of love yearning is really a yearning for unconditional love, but the character can't know that. So when the character is desperately yearning for Susanna or Rachel or Cyril or whoever it might be, the character obviously has no idea, no feeling, no possibility of seeing that that's actually a yearning for unconditional love. Yeah, I like that connection. Yeah.
I don't, because it's hell.
What about the connection do you not like?
Unrequited love is hellish.
Well,
yes.
no, I didn't say I like unrequited love.
Yes, no, the connection, I know.
Of course
yes.
not. I said I like the connection that yesterday Tony made. Yeah. No, unrequited love is, but it is hellish, and yet, in a different way, there's something juicy about it. I mean, at least you know you're alive with unrequited love, I'd say. There is something kind of juicy about it. A lot of good poetry and songs have come out of, a lot of good arts come out of unrequited love. For a second I almost said their most good songs and art have come out of unrequited love, and that might be going a step too far. But you could say unrequited love is just, you know, it's the personal version of our yearning for the infinite. We don't know we're yearning for the infinite, so we yearn for Susanna or Cyril instead. Yeah.
Do we sometimes lose ourselves unconsciously, like doing a jigsaw puzzle or reading a book or writing? You go, oh, it's at the time, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like the self just isn't there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just for doing or there's just for listening. Music particularly, I find, you just get sucked into music and you go, gosh, is that the time, you know? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And then that can become a technique.
Sorry?
Then that can become a technique, that can be turned into a technique, where I deliberately try to lose myself.
It's a love for me, though. I love music, though.
Yeah,
I love to.
Of
I
course,
love to
yeah.
lose myself
Yeah.
in it, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, certainly, I mean, the self is not there all the time.
Mm.
Yeah. But it does, as we know, have a habit of popping back as soon as the music's over.
Or the book is over.
Or the book is over, or the apple pie has been
Yeah.
baked, or whatever it might be, that we have this phrase, we lose ourselves.
Mm.
You know, I lose myself in a book, I lose myself in my art.
Mm.
Yeah.
It tends to happen to me at work.
Yes. Yeah, for you?
Yeah.
Not for everyone. I think for everyone, their self is very much kind of shouting when they're at work. But for you, yeah.
For me, it was like, yeah, the self was very much on the back end and like a real distraction from the task at hand. And
Yeah. So again, with the task at hand, so there's just the doing.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's just the doing of the work, the playing of the golf shots, the baking of the apple pie, whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
Like a self can pursue something that it somehow feels like it really likes or loves, and then it can be itself a bit of a struggle or a story of like trying to achieve a thing, like, and then yeah,
Yeah.
it can.
Yeah. But let's remind ourselves also that we're talking about we're talking about the self as if it's an entity, so we're talking about an entity that doesn't really exist. And yet that's what it can feel like. Yeah, it can feel like there's this entity that's there a lot of the time, and then I'm lost in my art or whatever it might be, my work, my baking,
And then
and that entity isn't there.
And then on the walk back home, the self is like, whoa, what's
For you.
happened there? Yeah.
It pops up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite intensely, like,
Yeah.
well, I just had a bunch of glimpses.
Yeah.
Little bugger always comes back, doesn't it?
Well,
Less so.
I hope is one day it'll go away and we'll be enlightened. And analyse that doesn't make sense either. Yeah.
well, it's seen through. Eventually, it's seen through.
Yeah.
Mm?
Yeah.
Eventually, it may be seen through.
Mm.
It may be seen through in the next second. It is, if you like, I suppose this might be a Buddhist way of saying it, it's seen to be empty. The self is seen to be empty.
John Borman, the film director,
Yeah.
he's had some glimpses. I've read about the glimpses he's had, and he talked about presence, you know, a sense of presence. And he said great movie actors have it, some, and children have it.
Yes.
Which is,
Yeah. Children are simply present up to a certain age. Yeah. Quite young. And then the ego starts to build and interferes with that.
he talked about presence as in Prescence, presence, a
Yeah.
sense of presence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we were talking about Mark Rylance, some of us, weren't we, in the break? I mean, Mark Rylance has the most tremendous presence. I mean, he can transfix you, and then with a twitch of an eyebrow, he can tear your heart out. I wouldn't necessarily associate that with what we're talking about here, though. Well, I think it's quite possible that, oh God, they're kind of like, there are no characteristics of this, but if there are characteristics of this, which there aren't, you could say, well, there might be more presence. Why? Because of a lessening of neurosis again. I mean, neurosis is going to get in the way of presence. Because the mind's going to be jumping around neurotically. Yeah, but you want to see you want to see presence in action. Look at watch Mark Rylance in Wolf Hall. That's presence in action.
Watch Mark Ryland.
Mark Rylance in Wolf Hall,
Okay.
the Hilary Mantel, the novel,
Okay,
the televised serialisation of it. Yeah, he hardly has to raise an eyebrow or twitch a finger and you know exactly what's going on and what he's feeling, and
Just think of animals, like say you've got a cat or a dog, they just lie there all day, well, some of the day, but we'd be thinking, what can I do next? Time for a coffee or whatever. Just
yeah.
particularly we've got birds come into the bird feeder, and you sort of think, I'm sure they don't sort of say, hey, someone's topped the seed up, lads, come and get it. They just, you've got no memory of what's happened before.
Yeah,
But then they do know where the feeder is, so they must have some memory.
yeah. Yeah. They lack neurosis. Not not always, but they can. But generally speaking, yeah. I mean, they live this kind of psychotherapeutic counselling word. They live in immediacy. We don't most of the time, because we've got this thing going on, taking us away from this. I mean, immediacy means being in this, that's all. You go on a counselling course, so depending on the kind of counselling course, you might be taught, for weeks, months, God knows how long, to be, immediacy, it's so important, how to be, it's a bit like saying, being here now, how to be here now, or whatever. And this thing, and I'm pointing to the non-existent mind in this strange way, always trying to take us away from what is, so it's always trying to take us away from immediacy. Yeah. Except there is no us. So that's saying, that non-duality mantra, there is just this, right? That's a statement about immediacy. That's it. So the mind might get hold of that and then turn it into another form of torture by saying, okay, so there's something wrong with not being immediate. There's something wrong with going off into the imaginary past and the imaginary future. No, there's nothing wrong with that either. But it's best not to do that if you're a counsellor in a counselling session.
I was speaking to a woman once, and she was a very good listener, I said, you're a good listener, because most people don't listen. Because, like, I'm bad at it, I'm always thinking of a reply, so... Yeah.
That's what most people are doing most of the time.
Yeah.
That's one of the things we're doing rather than listening. Very few of us actually listen much. Yeah. So she's presumably, but that doesn't make her a good counsellor in itself, but it's a good step on the way. Well, yeah.
It wasn't a counselling session.
No, I realise that, yeah.
But it struck me that it just...
Yeah. So if we're no good at listening, we can always learn to fake it. You get away with it at least 60% of the time, won't you?
Well, we haven't really been listening, though.
I don't think your wife would agree.
Well, with a stranger or a not very close friend, you'll get away with it at least 60% of the time. I'm going to stick to that. I'm looking forward to the time when we can all have an empathy robot. That would be nice. An AI empathy robot. And it'll sit there and occasionally say, would you like to say more about that? I feel your pain, Richard.
If the child, say at the age of 2 or 3, develops this ego, and virtually everybody does that, virtually everybody.
Virtually, not quite everyone.
That would suggest it's a natural phenomenon.
Oh yeah.
What causes that natural phenomenon of forgetting?
What causes it?
The forgetting. If we're saying that up to 2,
Oh, right.
they're living in the presence of the self.
Yeah, well, and then that is this new way of being is then overlaid on top of
Overlaid
it.
on top.
Yeah.
What causes that?
I would say the same thing that causes a great many of our characteristics: evolutionary psychology, evolutionary needs. You know, that's the only. You know, if we want to have an answer to that question, that's the sensible place to go. It's a sensible place to go as a starting point for virtually all of our psychological characteristics. I'm not saying it explains all of them. I'm saying that's the starting point. You're very likely to get an explanation from evolutionary psychology, and then if you don't, then you can look at other possibilities. Some people would argue that it's all evolutionary psychology. All I'd say is that I think, you know, if you want to understand our psychology and you don't know anything about evolutionary psychology, then you won't get anywhere. It's fundamental, it's foundational, if you like. Our psychology is founded on evolutionary need. Yeah.
In what sense? To maintain the life of the child, or what? I mean, how does it...
Survival.
Survival.
Yeah. So, for example, I mean, if you say, I mean, this is a trivial, well, it's not that trivial, but it's a trivial example. Popped into my head because I was talking about it to somebody a couple of days ago, like the kind of almost universal psychological trait of enjoying and sharing gossip. It's vital from an evolutionary point of view. It does so many useful things. Never trust anybody who doesn't gossip. Don't go near them. You can't trust them. Why do they not gossip? It is such an important thing to do. We learn so much. We bond through it. You know, we discover who in the community can be trusted, who can't be trusted. We might get it wrong sometimes, but then it'll be corrected. Sometimes it goes wrong, so what? You know, more often than not, it'll go right. So that is an example. You know. Why do we gossip? Why do we have that psychologically hardwired into us? Because it's hugely useful to our survival. Just one example.
But the child at 2 doesn't particularly know about survival, does it? I mean, it doesn't sort of think, I must now survive.
Well, neither does the adult at 20 usually, or quite often, but yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, they're just living naturally.
They're living naturally.
Yeah.
And then
They're living on impulse, if you like, and then gradually they learn you can't go on living on impulse. It's no good living on impulse when you're 20. So sometime between the age of 18 months and 20 years old, you better start learning other ways of living and not just giving in to impulse. So this wonderful tantrum I saw in the coffee bar at Waterstones before I arrived at the meeting house today, just a wonderful example with this child. You know, was perfectly happy, playing, lovely mother and auntie, and then suddenly something was denied him, displeasure. It was an absolute tantrum that went on for about 4, 5, 6 minutes, that the mother handled brilliantly and did not exacerbate, didn't make worse, like a lot of parents might. And then it blew itself out, and then 30 seconds later it's just absolutely in love with life again.
Mm. I suppose it could be called the fall, couldn't it? It's
Yeah,
the sort of
absolutely.
the fall of man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, if we get rid of all the kind of crap beliefs about that and just see it for what it is, it's a myth.
Mm.
You know, and it's a very, very intelligent myth. Yeah. Yeah.
All reinforced with language.
Yes.
Like, this is mine.
Yeah.
So what did you say?
language takes a big part.
So that kind of super intelligence we have compared to a cat, well, I have come across some pretty smart cats actually, but nevertheless that super intelligence that we have compared to a cat, you know, which makes us self-aware, which brings with it both blessings and curses. You know? So the cat gets startled by whatever and goes into this state of alertness and fear, and then the threat goes away and the cat doesn't need a psychotherapist. It happens to us, and we do need a psychotherapist because, you know, the cat forgets about it and we go sitting there either thinking, God, how much, you know, the same thing's going to happen tomorrow, or maybe if we're a bit more sophisticated we might think, what's wrong with my karma that happened to me? Or whatever it might be. So in one way or another we're going to have to see a priest or a psychotherapist or a Buddhist monk or someone to try and sort our souls out. So it's both the gift and the curse of being human.
So the habit's good and bad.
So the cat doesn't have to live with the curse, you know, of all this neurosis, but on the other hand, if you love Wuthering Heights, as I do, the cat also doesn't live with the blessing of being able to read Wuthering Heights. So there you go. It all works out in the end. And anyway, when this is seen to be, oh God, I'm censoring now. I wanted to say when this is all seen to be a load of shite anyway, by which I mean the person and the neurosis. I mean, in a way it is. I mean, in a way it's quite sweet, and in another way it's a load of shite. So when that's seen through, you know, then it's okay, you know, and you know, you get to read Wuthering Heights and it's fine. Yeah.
Actually, someone wrote a book years ago called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers.
Right.
As much as zebras you're saying.
Yeah, well it may be quite a lot of zebras don't get ulcers because they're eaten by lions before they before they develop them. But exactly, it's the same point. Of course it is. Yeah, yeah. So you can see, you know, the reactions we have to events. You can see their evolutionary, their biological basis and evolutionary usefulness when you see them in zebras and other animals. But it's just we have this additional software that can be absolutely delightful and wonderful, but also does cause problems. Yeah. Well, thank God it does. Think how many psychotherapists would go out of business if we weren't neurotic. I mean, we're sitting in, this is like a holy of holies for psychotherapy. This space is dedicated to R.D. Laing. These books, most of which probably, I look at them and I think they've probably never been read. Maybe most of these books, they may be virgin books, untouched books. You know, but this wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the wonderful, colourful neurosis that we develop and manifest. We've got about 4 minutes for that absolute killer question, the unanswerable question, the question to floor the speaker and end with questions. If we're going to have it, we haven't got much time to get it in there. Or possibly for a very banal question, or maybe somewhere in between.
What is the purpose of creation?
The purpose of creation is so that creation can experience itself.
Yeah.
Meh. That's great, thank you. That's the best you can do. Yeah. It has no purpose, it doesn't need a purpose.
A cop-out.
Yeah, it may be a cop-out, but it's also reality. You see, again, that's the conditioning of the human mind. There must be a purpose. What possible purpose could there be to creation? If you're going to reject, which you did very soundly, you know, the wonderful spiritual blather of the purpose of creation is to experience itself, I mean, what else is there? I think we can only answer that question with something which is, I want to say, I don't know why this phrase popped in my head. In a way it doesn't seem to make sense, but in another way it does. We can only really answer it with a phrase which is charmingly pompous, maybe. Like that, like, you know, the purpose of creation is to experience itself.
I thought you were going to say it's unknowable.
Well, of course it's unknowable. Of course it's unknowable. But there is a huge assumption in the question that there is a purpose. That's the human mind. You know, there is a purpose. Really? There is just what there is. Purpose? That's a story. Yeah, that's a story. Well, it's not a story, it's many stories. It's all the zillions of myths that we have, that we created. Yeah. The purpose of creation is so that Aphrodite could spring from, was it Aphrodite that Zeus gave birth to directly? I'm not sure. Anyway, you know that. You know, whatever you want, have whatever you want. Because it's unknowable, you might as well have whatever you want. Yeah. Whatever brings you joy. As one of these crap Japanese self-improvement books might say. That's very cruel of me. I'll have to cut that bit out if this ever goes out, which I suspect it may not.